Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for Central Unified School District. The date is August 12th, 2025. The time is 6 p.m. As we call the meeting to order, let the attendance show. We are currently missing Trustee Kirk, who will be joining us shortly. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion by Trustee Kerfond, second by Trustee Sellers. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining, motion carries 6-0. I know we're having some technical difficulties with our phone lines. That will be fixed shortly, but do we have any comments from the public on any closed session items at this time? With that, we don't. We will be returning. No, we should probably add that statement. Okay, so we wait. How long do we usually wait? 30 seconds? Oh, we have to wait till we fix it. Okay. It's fixed? Oh, even better. Thank you. But that may be something we add in the future. Yeah. Thank you, Vice President Creel. PIO Burrows, it seems to be working. If we could put 30 seconds on the clock.
Board President, 30 seconds have passed, and there's no callers at this time.
Thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and move to closed session and return back and open at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Test, test.
Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The time is 7 p.m. Today is August 12th, 2025. In our report out from closed session, Trustee Kirk joined us at 6:36 p.m. On item E1, we had a motion by Trustee Carrillo, second by Trustee Sellers. Item passed 6-0. On item E2, we had a motion by Trustee Sellers, second by Trustee Kerfan. Item passed 6-0. And with that, I'll ask Vice President Carrillo to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
Thank you. Next, we'll invite Senor Lazo to share with us our community engagement information.
Good evening. If you wish to address the board, please call 559-276-3150 or fill out a request form provided on the table near the entrance and submit it to the clerk of the board prior to the meeting. If you wish to speak on an item on the agenda, please do so when that item is called. If you wish to speak on an item not on the agenda, you may speak during the public comment section of the agenda. Si desea dirigirse a la mesa directiva, llame al número 559-276-3150 o complete un formulario de solicitud provisto en la mesa cerca de la entrada y preséntelo al secretario de la mesa directiva antes de la reunión. Se permitirán comentarios públicos relacionados con los temas de la agenda cuando se llame el tema. Los comentarios públicos sobre un tema que no está en la agenda se permitirán durante la sección de comentarios públicos de la agenda. The district welcomes other language speakers to the board meetings. Anyone planning to attend and needing an interpreter for a language other than Spanish should call 559-274-4700, extension 10150, by noon on the Friday preceding the board meeting or at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting so arrangements can be made for an interpreter. El distrito da la bienvenida a las personas que hablan otros idiomas a las reuniones de la mesa directiva. Cualquier persona que planifique asistir y necesite un intérprete para un idioma que no sea español, llame al 559-274-4700, extensión 10150, el viernes antes de la reunión y antes del mediodía, o por lo menos 48 horas antes de la reunión para poder hacer los arreglos para la interpretación. Thank you.
Gracias, senor. Next, we'll ask Sardani Munjinder Korseko to share the information in Punjabi.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਰਡ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਬੋਧਿਤ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ 559-276-3150 'ਤੇ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਜਾਂ ਐਂਟਰੀ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਟੇਬਲ 'ਤੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ ਇੱਕ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਫਾਰਮ ਨੂੰ ਭਰੋ ਅਤੇ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੇ ਕਲਰਕ ਕੋਲ ਜਮ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਰੋ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਦੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ 'ਤੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ ਦੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ 'ਤੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਏਜੰਡੇ ਦੇ ਜਨਤਕ ਟਿੱਪਣੀ ਸੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਅਜਿਹਾ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਸਾਡਾ ਜ਼ਿਲ੍ਹਾ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੀਟਿੰਗਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਬੋਲਣ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜੇਕਰ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਯੋਜਨਾ ਬਣਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਸਪੈਨਿਸ਼ ਜਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਲਈ ਟਰਾਂਸਲੇਟਰ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸ਼ੁੱਕਰਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਦੁਪਹਿਰ ਤੱਕ ਜਾਂ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ 48 ਘੰਟੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 559-274-4700 ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ 10150 'ਤੇ ਕਾਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋ ਤਾਂ ਜੋ ਇੱਕ ਟਰਾਂਸਲੇਟਰ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।
Dhanyawad ji. Next, we begin our presentations. Our first are being our employee recognition, and the floor will go to Assistant Superintendent Dr. Childs.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to actually ask Dr. Lopez if she would like to introduce our new supervisor for extended learning opportunities.
Good evening, Board President Singh, Vice President Carrillo, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Dr. Marshall. It is my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Heck Green, our new supervisor of the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. Jennifer is a passionate and result-driven educational leader with expertise in instructional leadership, intervention development, fostering positive relationships, and a positive climate. Most recently, she served as program specialist for the Santa Maria Bonita School District, where she designed, implemented, and oversaw district-wide expanded learning programs. She also has experience as a counselor in prior districts and brings that wealth of knowledge to our district. We are thrilled to welcome Jennifer Heck Green as our supervisor over extended learning programs.
Good evening, President Singh, trustees, and members of the Central community. My name is Jennifer Green-Heck, and I'm truly honored to have been selected to serve as the Extended Learning Supervisor for Central Unified School District. In this role, I will have the privilege of overseeing the after-school programs, summer and intercession programs as well, and programs that I believe will truly provide our students with a safe, engaging, and enriching opportunities beyond the regular school day. In this role is especially meaningful to me because working at Central Unified is a bit of a homecoming. I grew up here and I'm a proud product of our schools, starting at Teague, then El Capitan, and finally graduating from Central High School. Being able to serve and give back to the community where I was raised that helped shape me is both a privilege and a joy. Buenas tardes a todas las familias del Centro. Me llamo Jennifer Heck y soy la nueva supervisora de un programa que se llama Expanded Learning. Estos son los programas después de la escuela cada día, durante las vacaciones y también en el verano. Crecí aquí. Fui a Central, al Capitán y también Central High School. Estoy muy orgulloso de servir a esta misma comunidad. Mi meta es que nuestros programas sean un lugar seguro, divertido y lleno de oportunidades para que sus hijos aprendan, crecen y alcancen todo su potencial. I look forward to collaborating with everyone in this room as we continue to build our programs here in Central Unified for Extended Learning. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Did I mention she speaks Spanish? Yeah.
Supervisor Greenhead, as is kind of our general practice, meant to shake our hands, and we're excited to have you on board.
That's awesome.
Again, welcome home. Next, we turn to our Employee Association highlights, and it looks like we have President Laura Bolton, our President of Central Unified Teachers Association.
Good evening, everyone. I want to speak on behalf of CUDA and just say that we would like to welcome all the new staff at the school sites and the district office, from the new teachers, the new administrators. I'm sure that there are many new aides and our classified brothers and sisters as well who are joining us, and of course all the wonderful people that I'm meeting at the district office. So far we're off to a really great start, and I'm very excited about working with our new folks. Recently, CUDA attended the New Teacher Institute. That was last Tuesday. We catered lunch for 53 attendees and shared important information about the benefits and services that are available as a union member. Part of that presentation, we also always share some of the helpful do's and don'ts to try to help our new members to avoid pitfalls that could cause them to need our services. So that was also a very welcome message from us. So I just wanted to share that with you. It went really well. There were a lot of really grateful people in that new institute meeting, and they reached out afterwards asking for information and joining, and so it went really well. So that's all I have for you, and fingers crossed for a positive first day of school tomorrow. Thank you.
Welcome back. Thank you. I know Angie Aguirre, our CSEA president, shared that she would be unable to attend, but we look forward to hearing from her in the future. Next, we turn to our superintendent board communications. Superintendent Dr. Marshall.
Okay. Tonight, I'm going to give my report. I first want to start with a shout out to the Communications Office and the Foundation for Central Schools' Executive Director for an awesome back-to-school kickoff. I mean, it's a great event. The Child Welfare and Attendance Team and the Human Resources Department to basically making sure that we started off school fully staffed and ready to go. I wanted to give you an update on my entry plan as far as the different things that are in action, as far as the data analysis, communication, relationships, outside expertise, and then meetings with educational partners. What you should have a copy of my report, what I've done up to this point, looking at our budgeting patterns, looking at the LCAP to make sure that we have more of a formative approval process. I've looked at assessment results. As far as the meetings, interviews, and community forums and school visits, I listed those items, but I highlight that I want to meet more of the city officials. So I want to, get in that in, because I think I've done well in other areas, but I want to focus there. If you see, I have an abscess on a couple of points, because one thing that's important, when you have partnerships with partners, or just in general, how does it benefit Central Unified? Now, one of the components of Measure C, that community forum, where we learned that there is a grant for $1.9 million for safe routes to school that we're going to be pursuing. I also talked to designees from Fresno State, and we're looking at a partnership for our students. So those relationships are key in benefiting our students as a whole. Next. As far as our communication with the media, I met some of the reporters, the publishers. We've had some general questions that we've answered. And one thing I'm excited about is California Ed Partners. That's how I was first acclimated to Central Unified, via that relationship. So I'm glad we're continuing that. And that's a good way for us as a district to look at our practices. With the board, we have our workshop on August 16th. That's this coming Saturday. Looking forward to that. I want to remind everyone, at the end of this process, you're going to get a summary report. And it's going to give the findings, observations, and next steps. And what I'm talking about is that long-range plan, like for 5 years. That will be the framework for that document, this whole process. One thing I should have talked about is that there are surveys out there where we're getting partner feedback. I was talking to some parents at one of the back-to-school nights, and they've stated that they've given me an earful. We haven't started doing analysis yet, but I've gotten lots of feedback. I wanted to close, go back to the last page, the follow-up. Follow-up from last meeting about the Fresno calendar of events. There should be some documents in front of you that just gives you information about the city of Fresno as a whole. But also, we started to prepare a calendar for our school district. And what's interesting is that what we've learned through that process is that a lot of times we do things, but if we don't advertise it, you wouldn't know. Beautify Fresno, we have 2 teams at Central East and Justin Garza that participate in that. And also, we all have been invited to the Island Water Parks Fresno Fright Night. That's ribbon cutting, and we're all invited. So that came out of this process. I wanted to share that. So I just want to close by saying, have a great first day of school.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Any other communication from any other board members? Trustee Kirk.
Thank you very much. I was able to attend the kickoff. This is my first kickoff event. It was outstanding. The energy was so high. Everyone was so excited to be there. I want to tell our parents and our communities, our teachers and our staff are eager to see our kids tomorrow and take them on a fantastic school year. I know we only had one Spirit Award to give. However, the effort and the energy that was put in all of the schools, I think I still get to sneak around sometimes. They don't always know who I am, so I got to just kind of sit and watch and feel the energy and hear the energy. So like all of us here, super excited for the first day of school. And thank you for all of our teachers, classified professionals, and administrators who came out to make that an exceptional kickoff event.
Just want to echo Trustee Kirk. Had an opportunity to join the kickoff. I mean, just to see the spirit and engagement of all of our employees, it just makes me so excited. I had a chance to visit some of the back-to-school nights, and you can absolutely see that excitement is really kind of infectious throughout the entire community. I also wanted to really just kind of send a shout out and appreciate the CWA team. We are setting our boundaries in a much more based on equity, based on opportunity, and really kind of center the needs of all of our students. And I know that they have been inundated. I appreciate the patience of our parents as we're getting our kind of feet grounded as we get ready to open tomorrow as the first day of school. But I really want to appreciate the CWA team for making sure to be as responsive and just listening to as many parents as possible. So thank you all. Next, we turn to any comments from the public.
President Singh, I don't have any comments at this time.
And PIO Burris, do we have anyone online?
Board President Singh, there are no callers at this time.
Then with that, we will move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo, second by Trustee Kerfan. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining. Consent agenda passes 7-0. We move on this evening to our action items. The first item is to accept gifts to the districts. Assistant Superintendent Iqbal.
Good evening. Library Science received a donation of $5,500 from Eric Gart to support the purchase of materials and transportation for athletes as readers and leaders at Central East High School and Justin Garza High School Battle of the Books for all secondary sites and teen authors and artists at Central High School. Administration is recommending the board accept gifts to the district.
Questions or comments from the board? If none, we just want to obviously thank the donors. And do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Kerfan, a second by Trustee Sidhu. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining. Motion carries 7-0. We move on to item number 2, approve adjusting regular meeting start times. Superintendent Dr. Marshall.
Okay, this is a returning item. We talked about recommending that the board approve an adjustment to the meeting hours, a 5:30 start for closed session and a 6:30 start for open session. The change is being made to accommodate our student representatives on the school board.
Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Kirk?
Yes, I will ask. Did we ask our students if this is a time that will work well for them?
Dr. Marshall, is this have we discussed this with the student?
And just for
trustees
clarification, I
director?
know some of our students have after-school programs, and I want to make sure that they're not missing out on anything extracurricular because of a decision that we make before they get onto the board.
And verify and see if they would do that. That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can add, I don't think we did. Our focus was, and the discussion has been, our meetings have taken a really long time. We're scheduled to begin our closed session at 6, so this is really the intention of moving it to 5:30 is so that we have more time in closed session. I don't believe a recommendation is being made to change the start time for our public meeting time. So it really is just changing when we're starting our closed session, which our student trustees are not permitted to be in our closed session.
Thank you very much for the
item, yeah.
clarification.
And so to that, during our last board meeting, I did request that our board bylaw only be changed to reflect an earlier start time and that we're not locking ourselves into the 7 p.m. start time for our public session. If the board president or the board as a whole later decides to start earlier, then I would reiterate Trustee Kirk's comment of make sure we have this discussion with our students before we're starting earlier.
As some of the student board members are messaging me, they say most after-school programs are done by 6. With that, do I have a motion?
I will move to approve.
We have a motion by Trustee Kirk,
Second.
second by Trustee Sellers. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We move on to item number 3, elect board members to represent the district on the City of Fresno School Liaison Committee. Superintendent Dr. Marshall.
Right, the administration is recommending that we elect an individual to serve on the City of Fresno School Liaison Committee. We have to select someone.
What would be the description of the tasks and responsibilities?
Yeah. Trustee Creo?
I don't know if Trustee Kerfan has anything to share, but I served when they first began. I want to say Councilmember Esparza, during his initial election to the council, began this organization. They typically have a quarterly meeting, and you're there amongst other school leaders, and it's just to talk about some of the common issues. When I served on the committee, one of the main topics of discussion was really our resource officers, and I think only Fresno Unified and Central Unified were there. I know that they've invited Clovis, but they didn't have a trustee representative. So the discussion was around how are we negotiating that? What are some of the issues that we're seeing? So it really looks at what are some of the common issues that our districts are experiencing? What support can the city provide? And then they go from there. I don't know if they even had a meeting while you were elected. Okay. Trustee Kerfan is shaking his head that he didn't attend a meeting, but that was 1 or 2 meetings that I attended when I served on that committee.
Trustee Kerfan?
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, it's not that I didn't attend the meetings, that the meetings were not held.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so very similar mission statement to what you mentioned. I don't imagine it would meet ever more than once a quarter. Probably it'll meet less, although I do already have plenty on my plate with the Fresno County Trustee Association, so I'll see these people anyway if someone else wants to serve.
So at this point, do we have any nominees for this?
I am interested in serving.
Okay, so we have a nomination of Trustee Kirk.
I second that nomination.
So we have a motion by Trustee Kirk for herself, and we have a second by Trustee Sidhu. Those in favor to have Trustee Kirk serve as our liaison on the committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining?
Do you have a conflict voting for yourself?
Well,
you are allowed to vote for yourself, yes.
Well, either way, motion carries 601, and Trustee Kirk, you are now our liaison for the City of Fresno. Thank you. We move on to item number 4, approve ripple effects contract. Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Lopez.
Hello again. This is a returning item. Ripple Effects is a Tier 2 resource that we intend to use with our intervention counselors and Think Great staff to provide social emotional supports to students. It is part of our SHIBI grant to provide these services, and it will be paid for by the grant funds as well. Administration is recommending this item be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions. The data was provided as requested.
Thank you. Question or comments from the board on this item? Trustee Kerfan?
Thank you, President Singh. So, and thank you, Dr. Lopez. My first question is, does this Ripple program is going to be implemented at all school sites?
All elementary school sites, yes.
Okay. And what I was reading the document, it's mentioned that we're also paying for the teen program. So why is it not being implemented at the middle or high school levels?
For what program again?
We're purchasing the silver package, right?
Yes, it provides access to different levels of lessons that they can access.
Right. So what's the thought process then in not bringing this forward to the middle and high school sites?
We have resources at the secondary level that we, like Suite 360 is provided at the secondary that we don't have in elementary. So this would provide that extra resource at the elementary that is not provided at the high schools and middle schools.
Okay, got it. And then what kind of training is involved with this program?
So as soon as this is approved, we are going to set up training sessions to access the 8-week lesson plans. So our counselors, intervention counselors, know how to use them for circles or discussions with kids around those topics.
Okay, thank you. This sounds like a good program, and improving social emotional health is really important to me, and I'm sure the rest of the board as well. But because that is a nebulous topic. So how do we collect data on if the social emotional learning is improving?
So our Bates team meet quite regularly, and they gather data on the implementation of services they provided to kids in their caseloads, right, that they discuss. So our intervention counselors are provided with the caseloads out of that Bates team meeting. So what they do usually is discuss progress for each one of those kids at that meeting, and they either exit kids out of those 8-week plans or they don't. So we're able to look at how many kids were exited, how many kids continue to need services. But I don't know if that's a good way to say that we are measuring, because kids may need supports 10 weeks, perhaps 6 months. Maybe they need them for the whole first year because they're struggling with something tough. You just never know. So we will collect that kind of data. However, if kids need it, we're going to continue to provide those counseling sessions.
Thank you. And my last question, you mentioned exiting the program. So what is the criteria for students to enter this program or to receive it? What's the criteria for getting involved?
So there's different reasons why they may be assigned lessons. So it could be data based on certain behaviors that they're exhibiting. So perhaps they're having, there's bullying tendencies. I like to call them tendencies because it's a bullying behavior is usually a tendency that is built over time, right? So they can work on those kinds of skills with the kids. Or it could be just perhaps there's triggers in the classroom that they got to work through. So depending on what it is, they identify them based on the data that is being sent to the Thinkery staff. It could be discipline referrals going to the office.
Thank you. And this last question, because you mentioned a really interesting point. If there are bullying tendencies and the site believes that this program would reduce those bullying tendencies, is this program then optional or required?
So we usually contact parents to let them know, hey, these are the things that are happening. We would like to provide them these kinds of services, and the parents agree. If we're going to bill for them, we do have a process where parents have to agree and they need to provide the information if they don't have Medi-Cal. So they would have to consent.
Okay, all right. Thank you then. I think that concludes my questioning. I just want to point out that I do have a public comment card now for this item.
Sure. I think we have a comment by Trustee Chavez, and then if no other comments, we'll have the public comment come up.
Okay, so I appreciate the detail in this contract, but I think you might know what I'm going to ask because I always seem to ask this question, and I think people will get used to it. I'm assuming we're sole sourcing because I don't see. Did we do a competitive bid or
we did not do a competitive bid. It didn't go over the threshold as we checked. However, we did do research around the types of platforms that are out there that offer these kinds of 8-week plans, and they not all of them offer the flexibility and the different types of tier 2 lessons to be conducted by professionals, like mental health professionals. Like this one has a 8 to 10 week plan that they can create.
So this is what I want in a sole source, primarily because I'm not necessarily concerned for the threshold because I understand that there's accounting and there's all kinds of reasons why we do that, just legally speaking. But sole source is really intended for us to have breadcrumbs for us in the future. And so say we use this service year after year, I want for us to be able to go back to 2025 and remember why was it that we chose this company, and we actually have that narrative language as to what was the logic and what did they provide. So that way, if we do have staff turnover in the future or if board members change, we can always follow that trail and understand exactly, because I think that's a great explanation. But if it's just with us and it's not put in paper, it didn't happen, right? So I would like for us to get to that place where we just always sole source and include that, even if it doesn't reach the threshold. So, I mean, Dr. Marshall, we can have a conversation about that, but I know that we're not required to do that. I just think it's good practice for us, you know? And then additionally, so going back to the data that you're collecting, what I'm curious about, because ultimately we spend this funding in order for us to see outcomes. Like, I don't want to sound callous because I'm all for socio-emotional growth. I mean, I was a clinician, anybody who knows me, but I want to really be intentional with how we're going to gather that data. And specifically, I want to look at how could this connect to some of our disciplinary referrals? Are we going to see a decrease potentially in Are we going to see an increase in attendance? Are we going to see a decrease in suspensions? Are we going to see a decrease in expulsions? Are we going to see, changes in the numbers of students that are requiring thinkery services, right? Like we want to really get concrete on the data so we can make a direct connection between we're making this investment, what are our students gaining from it? Because if we go into nebulous and we're too loose and we don't have something to provide at the end, then it's like, yeah, we spent the money for sure, and we can provide that report, but I want to see how do we connect this to outcomes. So maybe you already had that in your mind.
And
don't
I
know.
just want, so I guess I want to reiterate, this is part of the SHIBI grant to meet mental health needs. So I do want us to remember that every need that goes into that room with that counselor may be very different. So that's why I said it'll be based on that student, what was the need, and whether they made progress enough to be exited out of the 10-week plans, because every kid may have a different need. For one kid,
Agreed.
it could be, right, like mental
No,
stressors.
agreed.
Yeah.
But we are an educational institution.
Yeah.
They can get counseling outside of school. We're providing them mental health support because we're investing that funding as an educational institution to see outcomes. So, I mean, I don't want to sound cold because I ultimately was a clinician. I understand the benefits, but we aren't a social service agency. We are an educational institution. So if we need to be broad in how we gather that data, like maybe we have a whole wide array, and I understand there are individual treatment plans for all these individual young people, but let's just really be thoughtful about all the ways that we could see the academic benefits, because we need to see it on the other side. We're putting in the investment, what's going to be the outcome? Okay?
The other measurement that I am going to keep is the amount of reimbursement that we get, because this is the reason why we're doing it. We need to be able to invest in our counselors in the future. So we're hoping that this is going to help us recoup that funding so we can continue paying for intervention counselors as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Sellers?
Does this program integrate into the programs and services offered at secondary sites?
So Suite 360 is one of the closest things we have in secondary to provide lessons to kids. But can you clarify the question?
I'm just thinking, if I was a sixth grader and I start receiving these supports that work for me, when I move into secondary classes, is it going to continue off of the success and continuity of care, or do I start over with a whole new program? If
So
that's the case, are we going to look at reevaluating, sticking with this program district-wide? I'm just wondering what the future vision is.
I don't want to, so I want to be very specific. We provided this program to counselors because they were struggling with resources on how to provide lessons to kids that were dealing with mental stressors. We are building capacity, and that was part of the grant. We need to build capacity in our counselors to feel comfortable, to have tough conversations with kids when they don't feel they have a repertoire of techniques, I guess, right? So the idea is that we don't have this available forever. The idea is right now we're in stage 1, year 1 of the SHIBI grant implementation. The deadline for using those funds is in a year. If we don't spend them, they're gone. And their only implementation grant is for us to build capacity in our leaders or in our counselors. So having said that, my intention is that we use it for this year, build capacity. We understand how to run circles. We understand how to have those tough conversations. We know how to create an 8-week plan. And we're done with the ripple effects. Because the idea is that they're able to provide services.
Okay, so follow up then. Is it the district's intent to have that coaching with the counselors, intervention counselors at the secondary site so that everybody is on the same page, playing from the same sheet of music? So
That is correct. So then once we understand how to meet those needs at the primary level with our intervention counselors, the SHIBI grant is going to help us with the whole billing, provide these services. They feel competent and they feel like they understand how to run a circle, a tough discussion with the kid around whatever tough topic it is. Then we're going to start taking those services away, allowing them to do it on their own, and then be able to replicate that in middle schools and then in high schools.
Okay. And this is just a single-year contract?
Single-year contract,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Chavez?
So one last thing, just to piggyback on Trustee Sellers, since this is a one-year program, and I think it's wonderful, so first of all, I don't want to sound negative about it, I think this is a unique opportunity for us to capture that data because let's just say it works out wonderfully and we can see that there's a possibility of us pursuing additional funding, scaling in some way, you know, growing. Those data points are going to be essential if we're going to pursue that funding in the future.
So definitely, after this meeting, I'll be meeting with our TOSAs and our intervention counselors to figure out what that would look like.
Thank you.
Trustee Chavez, oh, sorry, Trustee Carrillo?
So I'm wondering if the purpose of this contract is to build capacity, so said differently, to train our counselors to be better equipped to handle the situations that they are faced with. Would it be better to incorporate some sort of evaluation from the counselors to see how effective this training is? Because my recollection is we already have pilot programs, right? Like we have some elementary schools that are using this service?
Yes, we had 3.
Okay.
For 2 months they used it, and that's where I was able to pull some of that data.
Yeah, that's my
and
recollection.
notice.
And because they felt like it was helping them, we're now entering into this contract so that we're focused on evaluating the effectiveness of the contract versus the result to the students, since that's going to vary. I think getting some testimonials would be helpful for our purposes, but I think a better evaluation may be getting feedback directly from the adults that we're training. I mean, I'm assuming they're all adults. From our employees that we're training, and that's what this contract is intended to do.
Yes, so I was able to get some narratives from the 3 intervention counselors that led the program, as well as our district kind of just feedback and what we noticed. We noticed that the 3 sites were using it slightly different. Like one of them also involved the administration team, which was great to hear, to provide the lessons. One of them utilized a self-guided portion of it, versus the other 2 sites that focused on reflective and facilitated meetings with the intervention counselors and Think Great staff. So we are now reaching out to Ripple Effect so they provide the training around the 8 to 10 week plans, because that's what our focus wants to be.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
Trustee Chavez and Trustee Sellers.
So I will agree with that. I will say, though, my concern, I've seen too many contracts like this in my lifetime, and it basically becomes people going through the motions, and I'm going to get this training. Maybe I'll give a couple good anecdotal stories about I did this with this student. We wrap up the funding, and we just keep moving forward. I think this is a unique opportunity, and when I say I'm not going to dictate what data you gather, but I want for you to look at it, and maybe if it is 3 counselors, I think it would be even interesting just to see from their perspective what progress are they seeing, because somebody could have had more benefit as a professional, and what did they do and what did that tie to the outcomes, right? Because we have to quantify, everything needs to be measured. I'm of the mind there's always some way to measure, whether we have to be very thoughtful about it, but there's always some way to measure. So I do agree that we need to evaluate our staff. But the way we evaluate our staff is through the progress of our students. So ultimately, we could take, yeah, this was helpful to me, this enriched me as a professional, I was able to do all those things, but ultimately, I want to see how did they take this information and benefit the student. So for me, as a board member, I'm not going to tell you, like, this is what you should do. I'm just saying, let's have those conversations, because I'm not the expert in this, and I hope your staff can be very thoughtful and then bring something forward to the board. I hope that that's how it comes across.
I think when I speak to the intervention counselors, we'll be able to do that. And I'm a little biased, I'll be honest. I utilize this program to Hippity, and that is how I was able to see the decline in suspensions. And what we measured through our TST meetings, which are our BATE meetings here in our district, were the fact that those students that were receiving those 8-week plans were exiting out of those services because they were no longer engaging in behaviors, or they were no longer going to the center over triggers. So that is how we measured growth. That's why I said that data that's collected through the BATE team is going to be critical. However, I do want to speak to our intervention counselors to gather that.
Trustee Sellers?
I wanted to clarify something. You said during the pilot program, campuses are utilizing the program differently. Is the intent moving forward that every campus will utilize it in the same capacity?
Yes and no, and I'll explain why. So the intent of these 2 months was for them to dig in, learn the program, see what aspects of the program they liked, and be able to tell us, this is how it went, this is what we didn't like, what didn't work for us. So it served its purpose, because then I was able to identify that the best practice that was used was a facilitated practice. So we are going to focus on the 8-week plans, so it becomes more of a facilitated process with the kids rather than sit down and here's a laptop. So it's more of a mental health support and facilitated process.
So all the campuses will be utilizing it in the same capacity?
So the intervention counselors will be using it that way. The Thinkery staff may have the option to do the more of the self-guided options, because if it's a kid that's being triggered and the intent is to get them right back to class and Thinkery, then a self-guided one is fine as long as they check in with the child.
Thank you.
I know we had some comments from the public. Clerk Kerfon.
Thank you, President Singh. Our first comment is from Laura Bolton. And Ms. Bolton, you will have 3 minutes.
I actually really like being able to ask my questions or to make my statements after I've heard what you guys say, because it sometimes answers the questions that I have. Anyway, but I wanted to say that I actually think this sounds like a really good thing, and I agree that data is important. I think that the data will probably need to look different depending on the child. I don't think that a standard set of data will give you the full range of the success or not success, right? From the overall program, if you don't look at each individual child and the changes that happened or didn't happen. They're not apples to apples, so comparing one child to another is not going to necessarily give us true information. It really needs to be that child and how they changed each child individually. That's my opinion. I also want to ask, and if you can answer this, I just want to verify, because members have reached out to me, that there will be no classroom involvement for this program. So that's a question. And then also a comment that Thinkery staff are not certificated, so we need to think about that. They are certificated subs, but they are not teachers, and so and they're not counselors, so they don't have the same level of training and background and education, and so I would be very cautious, ask a lot of questions, honestly, about how that rolls out in the Thinkery setting, because it's not the same as the classroom or with the counselor.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Good evening, Board Trustees. I'm Diljot Singh Rai. Most of you already know me, and District Administration. I just have a concern, and if the student board members were here, they probably would have echoed it as well. This is a program for elementary and middle school students, correct? Is it for all school sites? Okay, elementary. Okay, and a concern that I had was, I know that the district is spending money, but is there a way to actually spend it in a more creative manner? I'll actually let you know of something that we implemented at Justin Garza High School, and it was something called Wellness Wednesdays. We wanted to make sure that we actually brought back the social part of social emotional learning into the everyday setting where students are actually there, right? And so we were trying to create this sort of activity for students so that they have an avenue to look to for that social aspect. Another thing I want to mention is that I know that data is very important, and this is a great way for the district to actually collect that data. But is there a way that this money can actually be spent on focusing on the social part of social emotional learning? Because I personally think, at least what we've gathered from our Wellness Wednesdays, and I've done an internship with Jakar Movement for Mental Health Youth Advocates, and we've seen that it actually helps a lot more socially talking to the student rather than clicking buttons on a computer screen. Another question that I actually have is, are the intervention counselors being used as like school psychologists in this manner? I just don't know what the intervention counselors are supposed to be at an elementary site. They could be potentially school psychologists, I don't know. But I just want clarification on that if possible. And to tell you the truth, I haven't done a single Suite 360 lesson in all of my years of being in Central Unified. I don't think it's a helpful program, me personally. That's my personal opinion. And I believe that the social aspect needs to come back to social emotional learning. Thank you so much.
President Singh, I have no other comment cards at this time.
So we've raised a number of questions. There's a contract pending. Do I have a motion on said item?
I'll move to approve the ripple effects contract.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo. We have a second by Trustee Kirk. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We move on to item number 5, approve authorization to file notice of completion for Tilly Elementary Green Space. Director Rodriguez.
Thank you, Board President, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Dr. Marshall. For your approval tonight is the board authorization to file the notice of completion for Tilly Elementary School's Green Space project. The notice of completion is a document that establishes the official date that a construction project is considered complete. This is standard industry practice for public record. Staff has reviewed and recommends approval of this item, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion by Trustee
Second.
Kirfan. We have a second by Trustee Carrillo. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Director Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to approve compensation modifications for unrepresented employees, management, supervisory, and confidential, MSC. Assistant Superintendent Dr. Childs.
Thank you. Attached for review are recommended modifications for Central Unified's unrepresented employees, including management, supervisory, and confidential. We call it the acronym MSC. Management and supervisory 1.5 increase to base salary retroactive to July 1st, 2024. Confidential 1.5 increase to base salary retroactive to July 1st, 2024. Administration is recommending the board approve compensation modifications for unrepresented employees, management, supervisory, and confidential.
Questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion on said item?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Sellers, second by Trustee Kirfan. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining, motion carries 7-0. We move on to this evening to our information items. Our first item, receive information regarding Project Stealth mentoring contracts. Area Administrator Garrett.
All right, good evening, President Singh, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Marshall. Tonight I am pleased to provide information for the Project Stealth contract for mentorship services supporting students at Pershing Continuation High School and Pathway Community Day School for the 25-26 school year. This partnership will provide targeted guidance, academic encouragement, and personal development support to help students reach their educational and career goals. Project Stealth, which stands for Stop Teen Exploitation and Liberate Through Hope, is an outreach initiative designed to support struggling youth in Fresno. The program provides mentorship, counseling, and intervention services aimed at preventing harmful behaviors. It is my privilege to share with you tonight the impact of our partnership with Project Stealth during the 3.5-month pilot held the spring semester of the 24-25 school year. Over this period, 35 students in grades 6 through 12 participated in the program. Among them, 10 participating seniors graduated and 1 junior graduated early. The data collected during this pilot clearly demonstrates that the guidance of our 2 dedicated mentors, together with the strength of the Project Stealth partnership, had a measurable and positive impact on our students. As I review those details, please refer to the program outcome survey sheet that was provided. The Stealth cohort averaged 17.5 students per mentor, while families and community members participated through dedicated restoration sessions and school-wide events. Academic transformation. Students recovered a total of 997.5 credits, an average of 33 credits per student, enabling many to get back on track for graduation. One student alone achieved a remarkable 84.5 credit gain. The average grade point average rose from 1.97 to 2.33, with individual standout leaps such as a 1.86 to a 3.7, a 1.5 to 3.2, and a 0.6 to a 2.33, demonstrating that academic potential flourishes with focused support. For goal achievement, nearly 100% of onboarded students achieved or made significant progress toward their personal goals, underscored by regular monitoring and adaptive strategies. And in family engagement, the program convened 3 family restoration sessions, 13 individual family meetings, and a school-wide family event. Attendance and perseverance. Now, though overall attendance did dip by 5%, and this was largely due to a couple of uniquely challenging cases in the cohort, we still had 14 individual students notably improve their attendance. 2, for example, saw attendance rates climb from 78 to 91%, and from 66 to 82%, and this proves that dedicated support pays off even amidst some broader challenges. We are eager to see the full positive of the impact that Project Stealth can have over the course of an entire school year. The data that was shared this evening represents our progress from February 28th through June 12th. This is important to note that during that time that we had in February was largely dedicated to the student onboarding process. And we need to remember that much of the success Stealth fosters is rooted in building trust with students and their families, a process that takes time. While the data is encouraging, the most powerful insights come from the stories of transformation and connection. And to share more about these personal impacts, I'd like to invite Jill Young, Principal of Pershing and Pathway, to speak with us.
Good evening. I'm excited to be here and share what we saw with the Stealth mentors. I want to be very clear that students and staff were very clear with us that they would like this program to continue. We saw changes in every student that they worked with. And what they did is they set goals. When the student met the goal, there was a celebration, and then they set the next goal. We had a student whose goal was to come to first period every day. He did make it, okay? They also did open house in a different way than we've done it before. They had a passport system and they had vendors there with services for families, and the families all had to get a stamp, so they had to talk to the vendors, because we've had vendors there before, but it's hard to get people to go talk. They got them up there talking, listening, hearing what services are out there. And honestly, one of the things that I heard a lot from the kids was that when Stealth sat down with me, they pulled out a notepad and they took notes. They really care what I'm going to tell them. It's a different program, but it has a parent component. It has a family component. I had a parent and a daughter having a fight in the Pershing office. Stealth came in, somebody they're working with on their caseload. They separated both, and they brokered an agreement for the weekend. The disagreement was over what was going to happen this weekend. I had a student who graduated 100%. Because Stealth helped us figure out why we couldn't get them to school. And that changed. Spring school, even though it wasn't one of their family events, they brought activities and different things to get our students to show up. And I know that at least 5 students graduated because they came for 5 days and worked for 6 hours on their credits that they needed to make up. We saw a lot of progress. It's a lot of money, I understand that, but it is worth it. I know that as a board you feel very concerned about the expulsion process. And if you send a student under expulsion to Pathway, you know, what support are they giving? This gives us a whole nother layer. It's a different layer. And one of the things that they have that I can't replicate is that they have a program in town. So my students can sign on and work with them after they graduate. And today I brought 2 students and a parent to tell you what it meant to them. And I want you to know that I saw some very amazing changes in the 2 students that are sitting here. And I know the parent felt it too. And so I'm going to start with Jacob Barbosa. And he is actually one of our Ag and ASB officers for this year.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to talk about how Stealth helped me improve my my attendance, just my overall behavior, and like the drive to come to school every day. When I first started coming to Pershing, I felt that oh, it's just another school. But then I started talking to more people around school, and I started talking to more people who were there to help me. And I felt that they were actually there to help, and they were actually there to they actually cared about the students there. They didn't just put on a front to get you through the day, but they set milestones for everyone, for certain students they worked with. And if you achieved the goals that they set, they gave you rewards for it. And I felt like that helped me in many ways as well, because I felt like there was actually motivation to go. There was actually motivation to work, and I felt that I could actually achieve the goals, because it wasn't like goals that were way out of my area, but actually in front of me, that I opened my eyes and I seen that I can actually do it. It's actually there, and I feel like it's a good program for students around Pershing and Pathway, because I feel like they actually care. They actually are there to help.
And now I'd like to call up Pershing graduate Brandon Alvarez.
Good evening, everyone. Well, let me just start off with, I'm gonna be honest, I was one of the kids at that school that never showed up. I mean, I would show up, but I was always late. I'm gonna be honest, I think I had the most tardies out of everyone at the school. But then Stealth came in, and you know, they chose me. I was chosen. They talked to me. They were like, okay, we're gonna meet you at this time. We're gonna talk to you guys. A couple different people, and I was one of them. And you know, like Miss Young said, they talked to me. They brought out a notebook and started taking notes. And you know, I don't really see that. You know, I've sat down with a lot of people, and they haven't really done that. They haven't taken notes like how they did. They didn't pay attention. They said what they they told me they were gonna do. So I told them my goals. I wanted to graduate, fix my tardies, and go to college. And it was really hard for me to fix the problem with tardies. But, you know, they encouraged me. They said, they were like, do this and we'll reward you. Just try, we just want you to try. And, I tried, and it really did help out. I started showing up a lot earlier on time. And then not even just that, they helped me with the college. They guided me. They did a lot for me in school and outside of school, because they have a program outside of school too, and they helped me there. The spring school, that really helped out a lot, and I feel like a lot of students showed up to the spring school because of them. They really encourage a lot of the students there at Pershing to show up. Well, they encouraged me to go to college, but they said, you know, there was other girls for I don't know what the other students had, but, you know, I seen a lot of improvement. But yeah, now I wasn't planning on going to college, to be honest. I didn't have any plans to go to college, but they really encouraged me. They guided me through the whole process. They made it easier for me. You know, now I'm in college. I'm enrolled in 3 classes. I'm at Fresno City. You know, and I'm chasing a business degree. I hope, you know, it's because of them. And well, yeah, I feel like they could help out a lot of the other students that are attending now to school. That was it all.
And now I'd like to call up La Señora Gutierrez, and Mr. Lazo is going to translate for her.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Sara Gutiérrez. Como ya escucharon, soy mamá de Brandon Almaraz Gutiérrez. Y sí es cierto lo que mi hijo les platicó, ¿verdad? De que llegaba tarde a la escuela y pues que no estaba atento a las clases. Pero entonces yo fui a la escuela a hablar con la directora, los maestros, que cómo es que podía hacerle para que ellos ayudaran a mi hijo. Y muy atentos me escucharon. Y el programa que tienen, ¿verdad?, de mentoría, que es de las hermanas Irma Linda y Arlene, que fueron las que ayudaron en este caso a mi hijo, le dieron consejos, ¿verdad? Lo orientaron para ir al colegio. Y otra de las cosas que lo ayudaron emocionalmente, en su seguridad de que él podía. Yo sé que tiene la capacidad, pero como hay veces nosotros de hispanos, ¿verdad?, en la idioma es un poquito más diferente darle consejo a los hijos, ¿verdad? Entonces, pero en este caso, las escuelas están para orientar, ¿verdad? El plantel de la escuela está para orientar a los hijos, a nuestros hijos, y yo fui y me ayudaron, así es que estoy muy agradecida por el programa y pues me gustaría que siguiera el programa, porque así como mi hijo tuvo la oportunidad de salir adelante, también muchos niños pueden hacerlo, pues beneficiándose con el programa. Gracias por ayudar a todo el distrito.
I'd like to thank our guests for being here tonight and sharing the impact that Project Stealth and the mentors and our partnership with them had this past spring semester. I'd also like to thank Matt and Vanessa Markarian, who facilitate and direct Project Stealth. They are with us tonight in the audience, and I thank them for being here. Administration is recommending this item be placed on the August 26th agenda for action, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Kirk?
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. That was outstanding. Brandon, I'm on campus Tuesdays and Wednesdays. If you need to come by, I have snacks in my office. I am glad to hear how well this program has served. So I really just have one question as I'm looking at the contract. This is a much more inclusive contract than we saw the first time. We have to pay the setup fee again? There is still the $50,000 setup fee, which we paid last year. So is that $50,000, is that something every year we have to pay for the initial setup initial resources and that type of thing?
Yes, the setup fee would go towards the activities, the family restoration meetings, the family restoration sessions, any of the whole school events. If we have this contract for the entirety of the school year, we would be doing more all-school events, and the costs that those would incur, those could be visits to the zoo, things at the park. So those funds would go for those types of activities.
Trustee Carrillo?
I just want to thank the students and the mother for coming out and expressing the support that the program has given. I had no doubt that the program is providing the necessary support. One of the questions now for me is separate and apart from Stealth is really how do we make it sustainable so that the school is also providing, and what role are the administrators and the staff members at our school playing in building those relationships? Because I am a firm believer that students will perform better if they feel like there is someone on campus that cares about them. And that's clear that Stealth is providing them that support. I think what I'd like to see is how do we build that capacity with our workforce? So thank you, gracias a la mamá que vino a contar su historia, muchas gracias. And so thank you for putting a lot of effort and bringing in these testimonials to really demonstrate to us the benefit that it's providing to the school. But as I said, I think there's just kind of that lingering question of how do we make it sustainable moving forward.
Trustee Kerfond?
Thank you, President Singh. And as Trustee Carrillo said, thank you to those who came out and gave comment on this item tonight. Very glad to see that this program has helped you in your high school career, and congratulations on graduating. That's a huge achievement. We're very proud of you. I was always confident that this program was going to be a benefit for our students, and I do like hearing that there are also opportunities outside of the school setting, because one thing that I want us to maybe one day get in the mindset of thinking is that we're not just educating students now, we're preparing them for career and life. And so making sure that we have partnerships and opportunities post-graduation is very important to me. I have one question on the program, and that is, since you guys are, touting the success of the program, why are we only bringing it forward for one semester and not the whole school year?
The contract this year is for the whole school year. The data that we shared was for the pilot, which was exclusive to the second semester.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I was like, why are we only doing it for one semester? But yeah, that'd be great. No further questions.
Trustee Chavez?
So I think the most powerful thing is always going to be from hearing from students. And thank you so much, and families. So I appreciate you guys so much and your efforts. So thank you. I don't want to diminish what you've done here, because I do think that obviously that speaks for itself. Like, I will always be a person who is moved by the testimonials of our students, and reports like this I've seen so many times. So I really appreciate you going the extra mile to bring our students to speak. I think I'm going to find myself back in the same place where I was at the very beginning of this. I still feel like it should have been a competitive bid process. I still feel like we're being pushed into using one provider. I'm not necessarily convinced that this is the most cost-effective provider. Even though they have had success, we have to consider that we have limited financial resources at this stage of the game. And we also have to consider how we are investing in our own professional development for our staff. I'm always going to get concerned when we're using outside contractors. We need to really consider how can we integrate these services, how can we leverage resources that we have internally, and how can we make it sustainable. When I look at the cost and I do the breakdown of 5 months of work, billing us at $11,000 a month, and to have 35 participants complete in 5 months, it's not sufficient. It just isn't. I do agree quality over quantity, but we really need to look at this closer in the future. And I myself personally need to see competitive bids, because I know they exist. We have many qualified providers if we're going to go externally, and we need to have more internal conversations about how we can maximize our own resources and our own staff before we contract an outside entity.
Thank you.
If no other questions, I'll just give more time to review, then we'll have this return under action. Thank you. We move on to item number 2, receive information regarding California Education Partners collaboration. Area Administrator Garrett.
All right, good evening again. Tonight I am bringing for information a contract with California Ed Partners. The contract specifically through the on-track collaboration is a 3-year network commitment running till June 2028. This collaboration focuses on helping districts improve student outcomes by supporting students to be on and stay on track for A to G graduation requirements. Key features of the on-track collaboration include customized coaching by California Ed Partners staff to exchange ideas, develop solutions, and push thinking, establishing site-based monitoring teams to identify and address challenge areas, formally meeting 3 times per year to collaborate with other districts, and improving the data analysis capacity within the site. Ed Partners works through a continuous improvement approach, building capacity within a staff over time and providing opportunities to collaborate with other districts, especially those with similar demographics. Ed Partners assigns each district a program manager who acts as a coach throughout the 3 years, attending team meetings and helping build a culture of continuous improvement and equity. The approach involves identifying next steps related to instructional and grading practices and analyzing the impact of these on A to G course completion, graduation rates, the successful transition, and the successful transition from grades 8 to 9. The impact of this work can also impact district policies, as was achieved through the collaboration around Board Policy 5121, around grades and evaluation of student achievement, including retake policies. The previous cohort involved 4 participating sites that saw DF rates decrease by spring of 2025 to 15.7% combined, with some schools achieving even lower rates, such as 13.2% at Central High School and 9.9% at El Capitan Middle School, while maintaining high expectations and rigor. The new cohort will expand to include all 6 comprehensive secondary sites, including ELA teachers, site administrators, and educational services staff. Administration is recommending this item be placed on the August 26th agenda for action, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Sellers.
Thank you. Can you provide a little bit more in-depth description of how this is going to help benefit the students?
I'll use the previous cohort as an example because we've gone through a whole 3-year process. So the team started by identifying something that needed to be attended to of why students were not progressing through their A to G, focusing specifically on 8th to 9th grade math. And so we looked at Math 1 as an example, and students not passing Math 1. Realizing that the pass rate was not where we wanted it to be, we started to brainstorm on different solutions that we could pose to that challenge. Each of the 4 sites attacked it a little differently. High schools attacking it a little differently than middle schools. Some classrooms and teams looked at tutorials at lunch. Some sites looked at tutorials on Saturdays. Held some of those opportunities, brought the data back. We looked at participation, student growth, all those factors. Was it effective? Was it not? Found that it was not as effective as we wanted it to be for various reasons. So then we pivoted and we said, okay, what are we going to try next? Ultimately, the team led themselves in the direction of looking at their instructional practices within the classroom and really honing in on that reteach, reassess cycle, so that we got to that place where we live with our board policy update from about a year ago, where our schools were practicing not so much what was happening outside of the school day or coming back outside of the school day, but what are we doing within the 50 or 40-minute block that we have with students? How are we going to change our instruction to provide that opportunity for reteach, reassess, and have students make academic gains that way. Through the course of that, we saw a decrease in our DF rates. That also started to kind of permeate out to other departments. At Central High School, it led to an early finals, that they actually do finals the week before, have students have the opportunity to reteach, and then they take that reassessment during those 2 regular final days at the end of the semester. So it really led to a lower DF rate, but that's why I mentioned the same expectation of rigor, because they weren't not meeting the standards. They just had various opportunities in different ways than before to master the content and demonstrate that.
Okay. Is this primary focus, I'm going to compare this to like a PLC. Is this primarily for teachers and administrators, or is it all staff members, including academic counselors, that, again, everybody is all on the same page? Who gets to participate?
Sure. So the 12 that are part of the convening team, that's the team that will travel to 3 convenings the first year, 2 the second, and 2 the third. That 12 is made up of 6 teachers, 1 from each site within the discipline. So it's a predominantly teacher-heavy group, which it should be. An administrator from 4 of the sites. In this case, we would select 2 that were not part of the original cohort, who had not gone through the process, as well as 2 who were hired mid-cycle of that first cohort so that they can complete that full 3-year process. And then there's 2 district administrators. And the first cohort was myself as I facilitated the group. And then we have another team member from Ed Services that also is a thought partner in the process. What that team then does is in between convenings, we do meet as a group, and we do increase the number of participants within the ELA department who can also be part of that. Of counseling, we have invited academic counselors in the past, and they've been a part of that. And so those larger groups live in between the traveling convenings, but the traveling convenings are made up of those 12.
Okay. The information that the group brings back, how is that disseminated and provided to the rest of the district?
Great question. So from a district level standpoint, we're providing updates to our cabinet team within different appropriate meetings that we have where we would be discussing the progress of the group. When we're looking at the site base and what's happening at the site, all of our teams have opportunities at site level professional development meetings to present information. One of the projects the previous cohort did is we actually built 2 different, for year 2 and year 3, slide deck presentations in which all of the 4 sites presented basically what the team as a whole had been doing. So if I was a teacher at Justin Garza, I was sharing what I was doing within this team and what our department was doing, but also what the other 3 schools were doing, so that all of the certificated staff in those PDs can hear not just what's working or what we're finding out as a team at Garza, but also what the other 3 participating sites. So definitely continuing to make sure that we provide opportunities working with our site leadership to have that presentation time within the site professional development meetings. Also, a lot of side conversations. A lot of that work is organic, and so a conversation within a PLC that you mentioned, if I'm meeting with my math department, I'm sharing my test data. If my students performed well, that's a natural conversation of, well, what did you do differently that I could do? And then if part of it is connected to, well, I do this reteach, reassess, or I check for understanding this way, or I have exit tickets, that's the organic growth of the work that happens within the on-track group and permeates out within that department PLC as well.
Okay. So I see when you highlight results, there is an incentive for, hey, maybe I can try that, but it's optional, right? It's not district motivated, hey, we are all going to try this different method. It's up to individual teachers.
It is. We don't want to take the autonomy away from our classrooms because what may work for one teacher in one classroom may be different than what works with a different group of students in another classroom. At the same time, we want to have a level of consistency, and I think that's where, and I appreciate and thank the board again for the approval of the 5121 board policy update, where we actually established a 1 retake policy for all students district-wide with a minimum of 80%, and the collaboration that we had with teachers throughout our district, our bargaining unit members, as we came to that draft that was presented that the board approved. That is all a result of this work. So while we want to maintain some of that autonomy, we very much, though, want to have a consistent minimum baseline that every single student in Central Unified is going to have access to. So it's a little of both.
My last question is then, how do you anticipate from site to site? I understand some people may have success with this and others, this doesn't work for me, I want to do something different. How do we anticipate the results across the district? Is that going to be site to site? Some will have gains like we've seen with other programs and others stay status quo, or are we anticipating seeing gains across?
So I know I highlighted 2 of the 4 sites. The other 2 sites also did have a decrease in DF rates as well. We also find it in different student group pockets. What I would say is the beauty in the work is just what you described. I can't force you to believe, but through PLC, through what I'm seeing as success in my students, what maybe a department is seeing, I can plant the seed and maybe I start thinking about, gosh, how could this work in my classroom too? So you're right, there's going to be some people that are going to jump on board right away, and that's great. There's going to be some people who are going to put a little foot in the water and then take it out, maybe not sure. And then there's going to be folks who are like, nah, this isn't going to work. Well, beauty is that collaboration around that and that process so that individual certificated members find a belief in the work that they're doing to foster a better success rate for their students within the 50-minute block of time that they have them during the day. Ultimately, that's the goal, which is why it can look a little different, but we got to have those consistent baselines across our organization like the AR that was approved about a year ago.
That's all I've got right now. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Trustee Carrillo, and then
So, in its simplest form, what is this contract going to do that we aren't doing or that we're not capable of doing within our system?
So I would say the number one thing it allows us to do that we can't do within the system is allows us to go and convene with other like districts and share what is working, to collaborate with them. Same makeup of teams, district office staff, certificated staff, site administration staff. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of reporting out. There's a lot of time dedicated to district share out opportunities. That's one support piece that our team really appreciated through the process, was getting those 3 opportunities the first year and then the other 2 the subsequent years. To have that. Those districts also, with demographics similar to ours, in a lot of cases are facing similar challenges as we are. So that's one thing. The other thing that it helps do is really provides that outside lens. And so I know the person that supported us through the 3-year process came to all of our in-between convening meetings as well. Tremendous thought partner. Really was a great lens to share what he brought to the table and could see things that maybe the group was maybe missing or was talking around but just didn't quite hit it. Having that outside piece is very valuable at times as well. I would say those are 2 things through this process that were valuable to us.
Thank you. I'm struggling with that being worth $109,000 given the goal of the work. And quite frankly, I don't remember this contract 3 years ago. And I'm surprised that you reference it in crediting it to our board policy in the grading, because I know that some of us, and I in particular, spent quite some time on that board policy. So I think it's helpful moving forward that when we have these types of collaborations, or not even collaborations, when we're paying organizations to facilitate, that's clear to us, because I don't remember. So I'll go back and look at it. One of the things that this contract provides is that the goal is to build the internal capacity, both human and system. So why have we not been able to build that from the initial cohort? And part of why I'm struggling with this as well is you were part of our leadership. I think you might have been a principal then. But we had an evaluation that was conducted, I think in 2019, between 2019 and 2021, where they essentially told us...
TNTP.
Yes, the TNTP. They told us what needed to be done. And it feels like this is also just reiterating that we need to change our practices, specifically to ensure that, yes, they have academic freedom, but the academic freedom doesn't mean that they don't have to teach at grade level and ensure that every student in the classroom is receiving the appropriate education at that grade level. Not because I think that Yesenia needs to learn at a different level or her capacity is at a different level, I'm going to lower that educational material being given. So I'm really struggling with seeing the benefit with this contract. So I'm just going to have to really dig in a little bit deeper. I have a number of concerns. I mean, if they're helping us create a process to support A through G course placement, what are our counselors doing? And maybe I'm ignorant as to what the role of our counselors are, but I know that at least this board and some existing board members, we've heard a lot of complaints about our counselors aren't doing enough. And so you mentioned that we invite our counselors to be part of this collaboration and this discussion. And so then who's responsible ultimately? You don't have to answer this. I think my overall questions are just who's then responsible for A through G course placement? At what point do we reach a point in which we've built capacity and systems to be sustainable? Because this could be 100,000 that we could use to better serve our students, and I'm missing how we're serving them. And the connection to really improve the classroom and improve the opportunities that our students are having. So I have more questions and comments really than probably you can answer, but just kind of overall, and I think there's a theme amongst all of us that we're just being really critical. We've given a lot of leeway. I know that we've had a lot of change in our administration, but at some point, we have to start seeing that return in our investment, and the things that aren't working, we have to change. And I think we're going to be the first on this board to be able to support and say, we're willing to spend $100,000, but we want it to work. Even if it takes 3 years, here we are 3 years later, and I haven't received any data to see that this is working. Some of the things that you're sharing, I thought we were doing, and some of us on the board did. So I'm struggling. That's all I have.
Okay. Trustee Kirk?
Thank you so much. Am I the only one feeling the shaking? Okay, it's just me. Never mind. I was shaking over here. It's okay. Probably a dinosaur walked by. I just have a couple of questions. Thank you, Trustee Carrillo. You had my first question with, if this is our second cohort, why didn't we have things to implement from our first cohort? If it's 3 years to teach us what we need to do, and we're here, we should know what to do before we do another 3 years to show us what we need to do. So that was my first kind of concern. My second kind of concern as I grow more in my understanding of our budget is if it comes back that we need 15 more counselors at each high school, well, where is that supposed to come from? How are we supposed to manage that if their answer is you just need more counselors to get this done? So that's a second concern I have. My third concern is this, and it's for me, making college access a reality for all students. Not all of our students are on college track, and I don't want to ignore what our career technical students are doing who are not this career ready, for our students who are not that track. So that's a concern for me too, that we're pushing and pushing and pushing students to go to college when college may not meet their academic journey. Those are my three concerns.
And I can answer briefly. The reason the second cohort would be an ELA focus. The first cohort was strictly a math focus and within our math departments. So this would broaden that reach into our ELA departments with our ELA staff.
Okay, so maybe that's A and B, so the rest of the A through G, are we gonna have to do these one at a time for the A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
No, you can, but as the question that Member Carrillo had as well, we are also at the same time, none of these things in isolation are working by themselves. So we are looking at how do we extend that into our elementary schools and actually bring alignment in grades 5, 8. That's internal work being done. I have worked to start the process of building capacity in our social studies and science program 7-12. That work's being done. When we're looking at math and ELA, this would give us an additional opportunity to take a group of educators through the process, very subject-specific focus, and give them that same lens and that same ability to go through what the math team went through that did see some good results from that work. But we are doing internal building and capacity building at the same time. This was an opportunity to take another group of educators, ELA focused this time, through that same experience, and we found a great benefit from the math team that had. And with that partnership and then ELA and math going through it, how that will even more strongly allow us to grow internally as we build social science electives to your pathways. Because we didn't necessarily, we were looking at math 1, and in the same way we would look at ELA 9, 10, 11, and 12. they do fall under A to G, but not excluding students who may be CTE pathway and more career-oriented, as
And so
opposed to post-secondary.
The idea is that now that we've done math and then we're going to do ELA, that those two will permeate out to the other requirements, that we won't need to come back in 3 years for social science?
The goal is to be able to build it internally and disseminate it out to the other departments. And this gives us another bookend cornerstone, so correct.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Chavez?
Okay. I think I'm just so confused by the focus of their work. These 4 bullets at the very beginning just confuse me altogether because they don't seem to go together. I mean, they seem like independent focus. So mitigate the disruption that occurs for students as they transition from middle to high school. That sounds socio-emotional to me. Are we talking about academically the transition? I'm confused. And then create processes to support A through G course placement and success for 9th grade students. Then you keep going down, and it just feels, I guess I'm just coming back to the same thing. Why are we choosing these partners? Where is this funding coming from? I mean, is there a certain grant that we got that we're paying this through? Because I guess I'm just confused. Why are we doing this? It's not a value judgment. I'm literally just asking the question because I'm concerned that this seems outdated to me. I'm going to tell you the truth. Because in the world of education, A through G is not the brass ring. 4-year college is not what we should be promoting for all of our students. Ultimately, that is a very middle-class idea that does not promote equity amongst all of our students. The idea that we're all going to end up in a 4-year college is not reality for a lot of our students. We need to introduce them to a broad range of options. And if this partner is really focusing specifically on A through G and to be college ready in that traditional sense, I'm concerned just for a lot of reasons. That's a whole cultural shift we'll have to have a conversation about because I think that young people need to be introduced. Those are critical years. I agree, 8th and 9th grade are transition years. But we can't just put people into boxes in the way that we've done in the past because every learner is different and we need to have variety. So number one, why did we choose this partner? Did we do an open bid? Why are we sole sourcing if we didn't do an open bid? And again, I don't understand where this funding is coming from for us to pay for this.
So the funding for the contract is Title II. The funding for convenings is through the A to G grant. And so that would cover the convenings and those 7 convenings over the 3 years. When we're looking at the A to G, I don't want it to be boxed in that that's its sole focus. Very much the group recognizes that we need to prepare our students for college and career and not a one-size-fits-all. The reason for the transition from middle school to high school is the recognition that students who fail courses their freshman year have a much more difficult hill to climb to reach graduation, and we do have a high number of students that have struggled in Math 1, also with biology, and in some of our ELA classes. So in wanting to set our students up to not have a smaller hill to climb to get to graduation, really impacting that transition from 8 to 9, that does include and can include A to G course placement. It can include looking at our students placed in proper classes. Are we doing are we utilizing proper assessment data as we're placing students in classes for their freshman year? And I think that's where the umbrella of the A to G world lives. And it is in no way excluding any of the CTE, the pathways, or the students who are going to industry. But we also want them to end 4 years with a diploma as well, and they need to pass Math 1, English 9 to be able to do that. And that 8th to 9th grade transition and lack of success that we've seen over the years is the reason for that focus and that bullet in the contract.
So that sounds good, but it's not reflected here. So I would need to see some more of that reflected here in that language.
Thank you. Trustee Correa?
Thank you, because that segues to another question that I thought about during Trustee Kirk's questioning. So the contract doesn't reflect. Is there any support, experience, inclusion that would help support our multi-language learners or our English learners, as are commonly referred?
not called out in the contract, but definitely part of the collaboration. What students in our classrooms are successful? Are we seeing a trend where our English learners are underperforming other students in our classroom? If so, what are we going to do to change that? How are we going to teach differently? How are we going to give them different supports? Are we using appropriate strategies and scaffolds? That all is generated from that collaboration and that work when we've worked on identifying the problem of practice, and then what are we going to do to attack it? The other piece is within the data that we receive. We have, it's called the Making the Grade data platform. Our ARIES system will talk, and that's embedded in this contract as well. That platform receives academic data by grading period from ARIES, and so we use that data in a variety of ways. It gives us, that's where I got the percentage that I shared earlier, but we've also can request different student groups data be specifically provided for us on that platform. So currently, we're able to see the school as a whole, but then we're also able to see our English learners specifically, our African American student group specifically. We can see students just in ELA, just in math, just in biology. And so we can see how students by period, you can disaggregate the data, and then the sites are using that as they're having conversations with departments, with teachers, to further that conversation of are students successful or not, and why or why not, and what can we do to help you make sure that they are successful when through your instruction that you're providing in the classroom. That's another aspect of this contract that's also included.
How do we measure the effectiveness? And you don't have to like give me all the details, but just like the 5-second, 10-second elevator pitch. How do we measure the effectiveness of this contract if some of the things that we're concerned about that both Trustee Chavez and I are mentioning and Trustee Kirk mentioned are not necessarily reflected in this contract? So we went through the cohort. We liked it. What does that mean? And why is this being recommended again? If you don't have a quick 10-second elevator pitch, in order for me to support this, if I do at all, I need to see that data because I'm not convinced, and quite frankly, putting it more simply, my expectation is that the district employees that we have should be doing a lot of this. And if we don't have the resources to do this, then we need to have that conversation because we just went through a 3-year cohort. And what is the result of that?
So I can say in terms of the cohort, I'm leading the other groups that I described earlier, elementary, across the other departments. In terms of the contract and the pitch, this is going to give us a broad enough umbrella for us as a school district through the process to identify what that challenge is that we are going to attack and try to resolve. What we can do, communicating through Dr. Marshall, is provide what that is at the conclusion of our convening, what our target is, and then we can provide updates as data points are met throughout the year to give updates on that work. We'll have DF rate data. We can have other data that can also demonstrate that, and we could provide that through Dr. Marshall to the board.
Thank you. I think we have some comments from the public. Clerk Kerfan.
Thank you, President Singh. We do. First up, I'm sorry if I can't get the last name right, Liz Gomez. Thank you. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, good evening to all. I'm going to be really quick. I'm sitting back there just shaking because I so appreciate the questions that you're asking because they're like right on. I retired a year ago, so I can't speak as of last school year, but my last year at El Capitan, I saw this not working. PLCs were not working at the school that I was at the middle school, okay? That math was not being shared with other teachers. You can speak to teachers, they will tell you. PLCs are not happening. This is not being shared. Students are struggling. I was the intervention teacher for reading. I was trying to help them with the math because they've got teachers that are not on board, that don't know their standards. We need to go back to math standards. Do they know them? Do they know what they're supposed to be teaching? And yes, do fours. Stop looking out the window and look in the mirror. What is not working in your classroom? Teachers need support. They need training. All that you're saying is right on. Before any money is spent, we need to start with what we have here and the skills of the teachers we have here. We are not doing vertical PLCs also. We were presented once a presentation on this math cohort, and it left everybody confused, all right? And math teachers were like doing this because it was not coming to them. It was not being shared in PLCs. So yes, does this need to be looked into? Absolutely. Does there need to be accountability? Absolutely. What are those principals doing when they're going out there with these teachers also, because they're gone like 3 or 4 days, all right? And we don't hear much from them or from this particular teacher at the school or principal that I was at. So how is that information coming back? All right, so thank you for your questions. You're right on what you're asking. And yes, more needs to be, more of whoever's in these cohorts need to be held accountable, and more questions need to be asked. And then where's the data? For the subgroups, exactly. I would want to know from the EL department, how did our EL students that were in these classrooms do? Because there were teachers struggling teaching those strategies for EL students and special ed students. Special ed EL students were struggling like you wouldn't believe. And I couldn't help them as a reading intervention teacher because I was a reading intervention teacher, not a math. And we couldn't even get teachers to support them after school. We could not get the teachers for tutorial. Thank you very much, and thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gamis. Our next public comment is from Diljot Singh Rai.
Thank you. I wasn't planning on being this vocal today. However, I guess I just am. So I just want to highlight some of the concerns that have come up as a student, as I've seen this, well, now and alums, but I just want to talk about the fact that I know area admin mentioned the fact that there is a board policy, and I've seen the board policy, I've read it, and it says that you are able to take up to 80%. But one thing that area admin mentioned was that this was actually, the pilot school was Central High School, if I'm not mistaken. That school, as I've talked to students that I know, actually has a 100% retake policy, so that's actually going to offset your data right there. Another thing that area admin actually mentioned was finals. Finals, and I've been advocating for this for most of my life. Finals are taken on the last 2 days of each semester. Why is that? You need to make sure you actually change this system, and area admin mentioned a good point where this school actually took finals a week before the last weeks of the semester so that those students actually have time to retake the test if they failed, right? So it doesn't affect their semester grade, which is going to go on their transcript. Eventually, it's going to affect their valedictorian criteria as well. Another thing that I thought about while I was sitting here, this contract mentions 8th grade through 9th grade, but I just want to point out that 8th grade only actually has one A through G course that can be offered, which is Math 1 CC. And I would know this as a student if I took Math Enhanced in 7th grade and then took Math 1 CC in 8th grade, then I would actually be able to qualify for that A through G credit for high school, besides whatever class the student takes within their 8th grade year during their summer. So I don't know what exactly this contract is talking about, and obviously I'm not an administrator or a teacher, but these are just some things that came up as I was sitting here as an alums of Garza. So thank you.
Thank you. And our final comment is from Laura Bolton.
I wanted to point out that I was a member of the group of people who helped to rewrite the grading policy that has been mentioned, and this on-track work was mentioned very, very often and brought to that group of people as a a way for us to move forward and try to do something good. And I don't disagree with that. It was rolled out in math because math is one of the easier areas to do this kind of work because of the nature of the concepts building on one another. And the math department explained to me how they were able to manage the teach, reteach, retest process in a way that made it not so cumbersome and helped the students to be very successful. My concern is that English does not function like math that way. It takes a long time to build concepts in English, and we are also already paying for a solution tree contract for next year for the middle schools. And so these 8th grade teachers are supposed to do solution tree work, which is supposed to be on collaborative teaching and working together and building lessons and improving practice and all of the things that this is supposed to do. So I'm curious as to how they're supposed to do both. I'm not sure that that's doable, and I think that it might push a few of our English teachers in 8th grade over the edge, honestly, because they were already feeling overwhelmed with solution tree. So I have extreme concern over this, especially with the English focus. That's my point. Thank you.
President Singh, I have no other comment cards at this time, although I do have one quick question based on one of the public comments, and that's, do we no longer offer Spanish 1 in 8th grade? Because that was another A through G course that Central used to provide.
Just for that, why don't we have Dr. Marshall follow up with that in terms of our Friday report?
Sure, thank you.
And just so we're sticking to that. So clearly, the staff has, the trustees have brought up a lot of questions. Thank you, Administrator Garrett, for responding and providing as much information. I think I too tend to sort of kind of feel that we need to prioritize staff development in this district. Just as a sort of a general comment, that's not always prioritized. And I'm actually always hearing from staff that we want to do more, we can do more. Just provide us the tools that we need. So. And before you guys start looking outside. So just because of the number of concerns, I'm going to probably have this returned as an information item still, because it doesn't seem it's quite ready yet for us to be able to take action yet. So we will follow up and thank you, Aden.
I would just want to advise the first convening is the first week in September. So we would not be able to start at the start of the cohort if we did not have approval at the next board meeting, but again, that's the purview of the board. I just wanted them to have that information.
Noted and appreciate that. I'll talk a little bit more to the board and during agenda prep, we'll figure out where it's the best fit. Thank you. Yes, Trustee Chavez?
I just want to make it clear, we've been in this position before. As a board, we get things at the last minute, and then we're kind of asked to approve things right away. It's not okay. We've mentioned it multiple times. We find ourselves in this position again, and I just have to make it clear, I don't appreciate it. So we can't be in this position again.
Understood.
Trustee Kirfan?
Thank you, President Singh. And echoing Trustee's comments, I think earlier this year, we did also ask for like a month buffer for contracts, so we don't have that kind of lapse in services.
We will duly noted. Thank you both for bringing that up. We move on to item number 4 on our information items, or item number 3 on our information items this evening. Receive information regarding approval of 2025-2026 school plans for student achievement, SPSA. Director Grigsby.
Good evening, President Singh, trustees, and Superintendent Marshall. Tonight, we're presenting the school plans for student achievement, or SPSAs, for your review and eventual approval. These plans are a requirement for schools receiving Title I funding and serve as each site's guiding document for improving student outcomes. Developed using the California Department of Education's template, they are the result of a thorough needs assessment, in-depth review of student achievement data, and meaningful input from parents, staff, students, school site councils, and English learner advisory committees. Each SPSA outlines the goals, actions, and the use of their categorical funds to address the specific needs of students. We monitor progress for the actions, and we adjust accordingly throughout the school year. Board approval of these plans is required in order for us to receive the federal funding allocation. intended to be directed to the needs of these students. After answering any questions you might have, administration is recommending moving forward with this item for approval at the next board meeting.
I'll probably have this return under action, but definitely just to give more time for review. But if there are specific questions, yeah, please. Trustee Sellers.
My first question is, where do these plans go once they're approved?
They're posted on the school site's webpage, and they are meant to be a living document where they revisit those strategies that are approved in their plan. It's approved by both their school site council, their ELAC, and this board. And so they're actionable. So they revisit those actions and their spending in conjunction with the budget when they do those quarterly meetings with their school committees. And we're really building the principal's capacity to also include that information when they're talking to their SLTs, their site leadership teams and everything, because it's meant to be a transparent document and it's a living document. It shouldn't just go up on a shelf somewhere.
My next question is, when these reports or plans are compiled, where does the data come from and who's responsible for compiling it?
So the data tables that you see at the beginning of the plan, those are downloaded directly from CDE. The data in the back where you see the annual measurable objectives, those are baselines and intended outcomes that are set. We set them internally, but they're based on the California Dashboard Growth Model.
Okay. Who in the district reviews the plans and ensures that all the information and data is correct?
It begins at the site. When that information is downloaded into the plans, we ask the principals to look it over and compare it with their internal data that they are working under. And if they send up a red flag or something, then we go through the process of looking at our data system and seeing if there was an error.
Okay. So there's multiple people looking at it, reviewing the data?
Yes, at their school site. So, because it goes through an entire draft process throughout the entire spring.
My concern is that when I look at this, there's some data that clearly looks inaccurate to me. So I'll connect with you guys offline so you guys can review that.
Yeah, we can include that in the Friday report. I know there was one issue with Central High. Are you looking at West Campus?
There's another.
Okay, let us know which one it is, because we were working on some of them.
So what I would like to see and discuss is a better system of checks and balances before this data and reports, plans make its way all the way to the board, that, you know, potentially we're approving this next week and the information in it is inaccurate. We have to do better.
Some of that is not editable on our end, so if it is a problem downloading from CDE, we have to go through, it's like a reverse cycle to do it, but we'll do the very best we can to make sure it's accurate.
If that's the case, that information that's uploaded to their system has to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
that's from us.
it comes from our Aries system to CalPads, and then CalPads turns around after they sort it at CDE, and then it's approved and certified, as they call it up there, and then it's downloaded back into our templates by the doc tracking template. The instance I mentioned that we were aware of at West went back to the data years where East and West were under the same CDS code, and so it was very misleading. It was like populating for those school sites twice for like student enrollment or demographic groups, things like that.
Last question, I guess, is who's uploading that information to CalPads?
Our Aries coordinator currently is Chad Godfrenon, and he handles the oversight of uploading those into the CalPad system at the state level.
Is there a checks and balance to ensure that information
There's lots
is
of data.
accurate?
There's error reports that come down.
Okay.
I don't even pretend to understand all of the intricacies. I try not to, actually, because you can only, I think it might hurt my brain. But yes, there is a checks and balances, and there is a certification process that they go through.
Okay.
But I would love to hear whatever concerns you have, just highlight them or circle them in the PDF and make sure that Dr. Marshall has them. We're happy to take a look at them.
That's all my questions for now, but if the information, I'd like to know where it's inaccurate and where the discrepancy is coming from, and then how we can appropriately address that.
Yeah, we can backtrack it for you.
Trustee Carrillo?
I mean, my question's for Trustee Sellers, just high level, what information is incorrect?
No, we're like, what?
When I look at some of the high school campuses, it appears that they have the exact same numbers, and that's a red flag to me.
In those front data tables, the enrollment tables and
When we
stuff?
talk about the student demographics and that.
Like pages 10, 11, 12, 5, 6, 7, 8?
I'll have to
Okay.
pull it back up and show you guys.
Okay,
thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. We will have this return for action at the future, at the next board meeting, but hopefully we'll have some of these things corrected in the meantime. We move on to item number 4, receive information and give notice of public hearing regarding the 2024-2025 contract openers for labor negotiations between Central Unified School Districts, CUSD, and California School Employees Associations, Chapter 474. Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Childs.
Thank you. So in compliance with Government Code Section 3547, a public hearing will be held prior to adopting the initial proposal from CSEA Chapter 474 and Central Unified School District, affording an opportunity for the public to be informed and provide input. Both CUSD and CSEA look forward to successful labor negotiations and working together on ongoing labor matters in an effort to support students in our district. Right now, there is no financial impact associated with this item, and administration is recommending this item be placed on the August 26, 2025 board agenda for public hearing and action. Those articles that has been presented by Central Unified is Article 6, pay and allowance, Article 10, leaves, and Article 18, professional growth. And the articles presented by CSEA Chapter 474, Article 6, pay and allowance, Article 7, health and welfare benefits, and Article 10, leaves.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Then it'll return at the next meeting for public hearing and action. Thank you. We move on to item number 5, receive information regarding labor compliance services for Justin Garza High School Athletics Complex Increment 3, Project 2324-103. Director Rodriguez.
Thank you again, Board President and Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. Marshall. For your information tonight, is the district has received a proposal from QK Engineering for labor compliance services for the Athletic Complex Increment 3 project. In California, anyone working on public works project must be paid prevailing wages as determined by the Department of Industrial Relations. It is estimated that there will be 10 prime contractors and 26 subcontractors for the duration of the project. QK will review certified payrolls for compliance with state and federal labor laws, including apprenticeship requirements for each contractor working on this project. QK will monitor and enforce prevailing wage requirements on this project as described in Labor Code 1771. Administration is recommending that this item be placed on the August 26, 2025 board agenda for action. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments from the board on this item? We'll have it returned under consent at the next meeting. We move on to item number 6. Thank you. Item number 6, receive information regarding replacement of classroom carpet at Liddell Elementary. Director Bott.
Good evening, Board President Singh, Superintendent Dr. Marshall, and board members. As you might remember, back on June 10th, 2025, I presented a deferred maintenance plan for the upcoming school year. Part of that plan was to do carpet replacement at Liddell Elementary. Attached is the CMAS contract number 42405-1000 through RJ Flooring, which will be used to procure and install the carpet. The total cost of the project will be $62,714.56 and paid out of the deferred maintenance budget. Administration is recommending this item be placed on the August 26, 2025 board agenda for action after I answer any questions the board may have.
Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Carrillo.
When do we intend to change the carpet? When is this work going to be done?
So we'll start working with the school site. We've been working with RJ Flooring for about the last 5 years to do our carpet. We're actually able to do it after hours, and so they'll usually do one classroom, and we'll work with the site to move the class if we can, if not weekends. But we want to start this project and get it done hopefully before Thanksgiving, if not during Thanksgiving.
Okay. And so there will be no disruption to the classroom?
No, the contractor will actually move the furniture and replace it all on the same day or same night.
Okay. How frequently are we replacing the carpet? What's the lifespan?
Lifespan is about 12 to, I'll say, 18 years. It just depends on the use. Kindergarten classrooms will not really make it that much, so it depends on the grade level. And, carpet has changed quite a bit, or not quite a bit, but slightly from, like, I'll say early 90s to some of what Liddell still currently has is when they were built, and going into later, tighter looms, just a little bit better. It's a little more stain resistant. And we're going to a darker color, so that way the stains and dust don't show.
In the future, if possible, can we start seeing these proposals in like May, June, so that we can hopefully try to get it done over the summer? Not a criticism, just
No.
I'm sure there's some reasons that's not happening.
No,
or that didn't happen.
I tried to, with my deferred plan, bringing it in June.
Okay.
Thinking I might be able to get it over summer. It's just too much going on. So actually my plan now for next year is seeing the deferred maintenance for 26, 27, probably in like April, possibly March. So that way we're ready to go, bids going out and stuff like that for the other projects that we have coming up.
Okay. Thank you.
If no other question, we'll have this returned under consent.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to advanced planning. Yeah, then, and any additional information and closing comments? And with that, a reminder for our next meeting, the governance workshop for all of us will be held this Saturday, August 16th at 9 a.m. for public session in the Central Unified School District office here in room 13, as well as a reminder that the next regular board meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 2026 at 6 p.m. for closed session and 7 p.m. for public session here at the Central Unified School District office, room 13. And with that, I
move to adjourn.
We have a motion by Trustee Carrillo, second by Trustee Kirk. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Those abstaining. Motion carries 7-0. We adjourn at 9:01 p.m.